Welcome to iRise Conversations with Joan. Welcome to iRise Conversations with Joan. My name is Joan Nwosu, and I'm the award-winning author of the book iRise, The 10 Secrets to Getting Up When Life Knocks You Down. We all learned early in life the importance of sleep, and some people manage to get the recommended 8 hours sleep a night, but a huge percentage of us get only 4 to 6 hours, and that's on a good night. First, it starts with sleeping fewer hours a night, and then it quickly progresses into chronic insomnia. And still, we do nothing about it. Yes, some people resort to taking medications, but we don't have to. The ability to sleep naturally is possible. We also want to consider breathing. Breathing is something that most people don't really think about. Most people don't even know if they're breathing correctly or not. So today we're going to focus on how breathing properly and getting restful sleep directly impacts your productivity. So you should be taking it seriously as we discuss how you can amplify both your breathing and your sleeping to achieve all your goals in life. Our guest today is Karese Laguerre. She is a registered dental hygienist and myofunctional therapist. She founded the Myo Spot, a practice aimed at amplifying oral wellness to whole body wellness. Through tele-therapy, she helps clients of all ages overcome tongue ties, TMJ disorders, sleep apnea, grinding, anxiety, and various breathing and orofacial dysfunctions. She is passionate about education and self-help, and her book is titled Accomplished: How to Sleep Better, Eliminate Burnout, and Execute Goals. If you're like me, that's a hell yes. Her mission is to transform and positively impact as many households as possible through dynamic breath, brain, and body work. Welcome, Karese, to the show.
Thank you. What a great introduction. I'm so happy to be here.
Okay, so before we dive into how we can sleep better, what is your own story? How did you get started on this journey?
Well, like most parents, it kind of just came through my children. So I have 4 children. And actually, I think as parents, we all tend to fall into the same category. When people ask, how are you? How are the kids? We give the highlight reels. This one's in soccer, this one's in dance, recital this, and all sorts of stuff, right? But I had a lot of different things going on in my home that I wasn't openly talking about and that were being actively addressed because they seem to be common issues between a lot of children. And so the pediatrician just kind of wrote it off as things that they would be able to outgrow, or eventually it would stop happening. So
Yes.
it was starting with my son, and he had emotional and behavioral outbursts and ADHD. And we went through a long journey with him with medication and struggles in school. And then my oldest daughter, she had every sleep issue under the sun, you name it. And we were going through it every night for 10 years. There was bedwetting. There were night terrors with like blood curdling screams in the middle of the night, sleepwalking, snoring. I mean, you name it. And we were going through it. And then my younger 2 daughters, they had a lot of upper respiratory issues, ear infections, throat infections, ear infections again, nose congestion. And like it didn't matter. There was always something in my household. And so it was actually a pediatric dentist that started to bring to light to me that the way they were breathing, the way they were using their mouths, their nose, like all of that was really behind everything. And so once I dove in and helped my children, I really just couldn't stop myself from helping as many other people as possible.
Wow. I'm sure as you were going through that list of things with your children, I'm sure most parents are like, that sounds about normal. Every child goes through that because I had breathing respiratory issues when I was younger, and it was the same. Oh, you're going to outgrow it. Yeah, 43 years and I have asthma. But again, most parents don't deal with this when it's happening because they just write it off as normal. They will outgrow it. So awesome. Okay, so I know that we've talked a little bit, I kind of mentioned a little bit about sleeping. Sleeping is something that a lot of adults just say, I can't sleep. I'll just watch TV. I'll do something. How important is sleeping, not getting enough sleep?
Sleep is probably the most critical task that we do. That's why we spend about a third of our life doing it. The CDC, very early on in like 2007, I'm sorry, the CDC, Center for Disease Control in America, declared that we had a national epidemic, that people weren't sleeping enough. And then the World Health Organization, the WHO, declared in 2015 that it was a global epidemic. So
Wow.
before we even had COVID, we were already struggling as a whole with sleep, right? And so sleep is probably the most critical thing to your immune system. It is detrimentally impacted on the cognitive system, like psychologically, how you function, how you perform, your alertness. If you're not getting good sleep, your brain, it's almost operating like if you're drunk. Okay. So you have like a drunken brain, is what they would call
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You really can't think clear. Your balance is impacted. You're unable to really put together words and phrases or really vocalize what it is that you're trying to get across. There's a whole lot of impacts that we're going to see if we're not sleeping well on our bodies. And it's probably the most important thing, but like the thing that we disregard the most.
I'm sure a lot of people might disagree. They're like, I'll sleep when I'm dead. I've heard that phrase before. Sleep when I'm
Yeah.
dead. You know, life is for being awake and living. Wow, but look at all the things that you just mentioned. And I'm guilty of that as well. I don't really prioritize sleep. If you said what's the most important thing to me, I just say food. But yeah, I get it. If you can't sleep well, then that brain fog, because I do experience it. And I'm like, I can't even get my day started. I'm just tossing and turning the whole day and I just want to get to bed. Is there good sleep and is there bad sleep? Because some people do take some medication to help them sleep, but then they wake up and they say, I still don't feel rested. Yeah, I was asleep, but my eyes were closed, but I don't feel rested. So is there a difference? Is all sleeping equal, or is there a difference between good sleep and bad sleep?
That is such a great question. All sleep is not equal. So there's restorative sleep, and then there's like restful sleep, is you can call it that. Restorative sleep has to occur in order for us to really feel good. So when our body is only getting restful sleep, we're more sedated and not necessarily sleeping, right? So during the process of sleep, we're getting cell regeneration. Our brain is really flushing a lot of its own toxins. We have a lot of immune system function that's going on, and the body's restoring. In children, even when you're young, that's the only time growth hormone is secreted. So sleep is very critical at all ages and stages, just for normal body function, body and brain function. When you're not getting restorative sleep, when you're only getting restful sleep, none of those tasks are happening. The body is just sort of lying dormant, but you're not getting any of that brain detoxification. You're not getting cell regeneration. You're not getting any of those things done. The body is just focused on being sedated. So when you put under for like general anesthesia, that's more sedation. People call it being put to sleep, but you're not actually sleeping. Your body's just sedated. And so when you take medications and those medications put you under, or even if you just take the over the counter, like the NyQuil or whatever medication to just so you can get some sleep, that's more of your restful sleep. That's not restoring any of the body, any of the organs, any of the functions. You're more just sedated.
Ouch. Ouch. Wow. A lot of people do depend on on taking medication to help them sleep. But hearing that is just restful and not restorative, I think now we need to look at better ways to have a better sleep. So before we get into better sleep and what natural therapies are available for people to sleep better, what about breath? Because breath is just, well, I'm breathing. Like, what's wrong with my breath? How important is it for, first of all, is there a wrong way to breathe and a right way to breathe?
Yes, there is a correct way and an incorrect way. Mouth breathing, we're going to classify as a whole as an incorrect way. But you can be nasal breathing and doing that incorrectly too. So our mouth is for eating, our nose is for breathing. Our nose is where you're going to get air that is primed to be intaken by the body. So you're going to get it filtered through the nasal cilia. The air will be filtered so you get better quality of air. You're going to get it warmed and humidified so that it's able to be received by the body even better. And you're going to get nitric oxide production, which helps it bind to the receptors in the hemoglobin so that you're able to really use this oxygen now and power up your body with it. Okay. So nasal breathing is key, but there is a way to nasal breathe, and it actually involves our mouth. We don't really think about it too often, but the roof of our mouth is actually the floor of the nose. And those two things, because they are the same anatomical part, we need that roof of the mouth to be stimulated in order to get really good connection between the brain and the body, but to stimulate that nasal floor and really optimize the breathing as well. So at rest, when we are doing absolutely nothing, not eating, not speaking, not using our mouth, our tongue should be resting up, lightly suctioned against the roof of the mouth from the front, just behind the two front teeth, all the way through to the back of the soft palate. And when it's not there, if it's lying down low or it's kind of floating in the middle of your mouth, you're going to find that you're not getting as adequate of a breath. And so if you want to check that out and see where your tongue is now, I would just encourage you to sit up nice and straight, put both feet flat on the floor, take a deep breath in through your nose. You're going to inhale, nice deep breath, exhale, nice deep breath back out through the nose. Inhale one more time. And as you're inhaling, right before you exhale, take note of where your tongue. Where is your tongue?
The roof.
Where? It's on the roof. Awesome. You did it. That's fantastic.
I've never thought about that before. Yeah. Never even heard this before. So, but
that is fantastic.
These are things that people just do. You assume that you're born with the knowledge of how to breathe correctly because it's something that's natural to people. But you're just saying this now, and I'm sure there are a lot of people who breathe through their mouth. And I have an excuse. I've got asthma. So sometimes I'm just not able to breathe properly through the nasal breathing. So first of all, you taught us a way right now, very simply, how you can know. Just know if your tongue is not on the roof of your mouth and maybe you're breathing incorrectly, and maybe you should try to consciously change that. It might not be easy, but I guess with practice you can. But for people who struggle with respiratory or breathing ailments, how can they improve their breathing naturally without medication? Because I have to take an inhaler when I'm not able to breathe correctly.
Absolutely. So one of the best ways is to make sure that we're taking care of our nose. We clean all the rest of our body. Our nose, we don't, for some reason, ever think to clean. Saline rinses, being able to wash out the nose, making that a daily practice, making sure that your nose and your sinuses are nice and clean and clear. That way you're optimizing, you're preparing your body for better nasal breathing. That's step one, because without a clear nose, there's no way that you're going to get anything else accomplished really well. Step two is to just really be aware of that tongue and to take the active steps to get it up against the roof of the mouth. You want to, like I mentioned before, stimulate that nasal floor, and you want to, it really connects the vagus nerve with the rest of the body. And so the vagus nerve, we know, is our autonomic nervous system, where we have our parasympathetic, sympathetic, flight or fright, and that sort of thing. And so what we want to do is we want to make sure that we're working that tongue. And if your tongue is lying low in your mouth or it's not where it's supposed to be, you want to start exercising it. Get that tongue to sit up there as much as you can consciously. For some people, it's difficult. There are actually 16 different muscles that innervate that tongue. And so it's difficult to get all of those coordinated. And so that's where myofunctional therapy would come in, or you would get assistance from somebody who can really help you to work out those muscles. But our tongue, we don't think about it. It is a long body organ. It goes down, if you think about your cervical spine, to C5 or C6. And so we got to get it up against the roof of that mouth. That way it's up and out of your airway. So you keep your nose clean and you keep your tongue out of the airway, and you've got a free passage all the way through.
Wow. I'm sure the tongue, yeah, I'm sure like most people probably thought the tongue was just there for tasting food. But it's very, very interesting because a lot of people don't think about their tongue, but people do take care of their tongue. Like people brush their tongues and all. But the nose, minus trimming nose hairs, I don't know many people who actually take care of their nose. And you're saying use a saline solution to like clear out your airwaves and do all that. That's going to be a difficult one. But from what I'm hearing, it sounds that it's really important for us to do that. Okay, so back to sleep, because I know that sleep really impacts a lot of people. A lot of people are just not able to get that sleep. Takes hours to fall asleep. What are some ways that they can sleep better orally without having to take any over-the-counter medication? Or sometimes people even take prescribed medication.
Absolutely. So I would say that 100%. First, foremost, you have to understand the association between breathing and sleep. The way we breathe and being able to adequately oxygenate our body is going to help us regulate those sleep cycles. And so stage one of sleep is really the body just starting to relax. Stage two, you're getting into a deeper stage, the muscles are relaxing and so forth. And so you've got to understand that you've got to get your breathing right in order to get your sleep right. And so I would say start with a conscious practice of breathing. You want to be aware of how you breathe. You want to be able to know that you are able to control how you are breathing. Are you breathing too fast? Are you breathing too slow? When you breathe and you inhale or exhale through your nose, are you hearing a sound? Because hearing a sound as you're breathing is not normal. Breathing should be a quiet process. If we are hearing ourselves breathing, that means that air is meeting resistance somewhere along the upper respiratory tract. And that doesn't even sound like something that we want. Like when you hear that back, like air meeting resistance going through the upper respiratory tract, we don't want any resistance. If it was food, I wouldn't want any resistance for like a piece of candy going down my airway, right? I don't want any resistance for any of the air going down there.
Mm-hmm.
So be aware of how you're breathing. Then start taking conscious efforts to one, like I said, clean out the nose, make sure that you're adequately leaving that space in that room in there so that you can breathe better. Make sure that you're getting your tongue up and out of the airway. If you're having some difficulties with either of those tasks or you're finding it difficult, you can use something to help you supplement. So nasal strips on the outside of the nose help hold it open, and that's going to give you a little bit open passageway. Nasal dilators are like little cones that go inside the nostrils to help open it up internally. Some people use mouth tape. Mouth tape you can use. There are even some that do not cover the mouth directly. They just go around the muscles around the mouth in like a little box or a rectangle shape. So mouth tape. That way you're able to ensure that all the oxygen you're getting is coming from your nose, because your nose is where we're getting our best quality of oxygen. That's how we're binding to those hemoglobin. We're trying to keep the body aware that yes, you can actually restore because you don't have to worry. We're not in a state of crisis. When we're getting poor oxygen, our body then shifts out of restorative sleep into restful sleep because it's saying, okay, hold on. I think my person might not make it through the night. Let me make sure that they're able to breathe, and it's moving all of those tasks that it should do during restorative breathing towards restorative sleep, towards another night, because it needs to keep you alive tonight.
Ooh, okay, so better sleep, start with your breathing and see how it goes. So what about snoring? Because I know that a lot of adults, I'm probably guilty as well, snore. And some people go as far, it gets worse, where they're having sleep apnea. What is the cause of those? And is breath work also a way to improve or probably eliminate snoring and sleep apnea?
Absolutely. So when it comes to snoring is just that nighttime like resistance that air is meeting. And so you're hearing the sound of air as it's pushing through some of the muscles or the tissues in the upper respiratory tract. And when we think about it, what I want you to think about muscles. Okay. So let's use our stomach as an example. If you have six-pack abs and you lie down, six-pack abs lying down, they don't move. They still have those six-pack abs there. They're sitting, they're lying, whatever. Those abs are tight and strong. They don't move, right? If you have more of like a beer belly, or you've got more shape to your belly and less muscle, then you lie down and things just sort of flow, right? They move.
Yeah.
Okay. These are two different types of musculature, right? That doesn't mean that you don't have abdominal muscles. You still have them, but they're just not as tight, right? And so you want to think of your upper respiratory muscles and the tract as that same sort of analogy. The first few stages of sleep are going to have all the muscles relaxing. When we're lying back and our muscles are relaxed, our muscles are going to sometimes collapse in or create a more narrow passageway around our tract, especially if they're not very well-toned muscles. And so we want to ensure that we are adequately taking the steps to keep up with these muscles, because these are the most important muscles that we have. So when I do myofunctional therapy, I'm working with a lot of the muscles that are just below the eyes, but above the shoulder. So all of the muscles that really encompass the surrounding area of the upper respiratory tract. These are the most important ones. We breathe, we eat, like these are the critical muscles.
They keep you alive.
Exactly. So you want to get what I would call like the six-pack abs of your upper respiratory tract. That way they don't collapse in on each other, because that's exactly what that snoring is. It's those muscles have created a narrow passageway. That air is meeting resistance as it's going through. And for those with sleep apnea, that means that those muscles actually collapse at some point and the air is not able to come through. And then they have to kind of alert themselves awake. You hear them wake up with a with a gasp. Yeah. I know.
Oh
I
my,
don't know. Maybe you don't
so
have a bed
scary.
partner that,
Woo.
is apnea. But when you hear that, you're like, oh, okay, there you go. They just caught that breath again. Now they're breathing.
Oh my God. And it's so common. It really is common with most adults, at least most adults that I know. They either snore or they have sleep apnea or undiagnosed sleep apnea. If you tell them you were, they're like, no, I wasn't. No, I wasn't snoring. People are in so much denial. So, and myofunctional therapy, it's not something that people are probably aware of or familiar with. And people will be like, I don't have a sleep or breathing problem. I'm fine. I sleep good. So what exactly is it that you do and how do you work with your clients?
So what I do with my clients, first and foremost, everybody's a little bit different, right? So I like to compare it to personal training because I've got to first assess and figure out like where is your dysfunction. There's 16 muscles that innervate the tongue. There's over 100 muscles in the complex between that area that I talked about below the eyes to above the shoulders. So we're really looking at where is that individual person's dysfunction? Where do we have to work on certain musculature and how can we get to that goal? And then we're really doing exercises and activities that are going to help to work those muscles. And so just for like a little light example, one of the ways you can really strengthen the tongue and especially the back of the tongue is if you get your tongue up and connected to the roof of the mouth. So a lot of people or children even sometimes will commonly click their tongue, but that's actually a really good way of getting that tongue connected to the roof of the mouth and establishing a light suction. And then you're releasing that suction in order to make that clicking sound.
Yeah.
Yeah, so doing that with control and measure and holding it for some time and then relaxing it and letting it go. That's the type of exercises that we're doing. We're going to exercise a lot of these muscles using simple, light activities. But just like personal training, it's a commitment. So it's definitely like muscles don't change no matter where they are in the body. If you want strong biceps, you got to put those work in. If you want strong orofacial muscles, you got to put the work in.
Oh my God. I love that exercise you gave because when I was growing up, making that sound was considered rude. But now it's good to know you can do it. I'm just exercising my tongue, leave me alone.
Yes.
But I think that's so phenomenal. It's something that's easy. It's probably something that everyone's done in their lifetime. And so if people can just start with that, would that be a good starting point for people who maybe are not ready? They're still in denial about their sleeping and breathing issues. Is that one good way that they can start working that the tongue muscle so that it sits at the roof of the mouth?
Absolutely. That is a phenomenal way to really get a light start and a light introduction into that thing. And when you find that and I would actually advocate that everybody tries on their own independently, because then when you find that you hit like a roadblock, maybe, and maybe you're like, but I can't do it for a long time, or I don't feel like I'm getting it really well, then you realize, oh, okay, I need a little bit more help. I need some more guidance. And so I would say, absolutely, you want to be aware of the muscles and you want to try to take what steps you can to try to address the problem independently. That
Mhm.
way you have a better gauge of where it is that we need to work.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so everyone, you can get start clicking your tongues today and just start from there. And again, I think the goal is really to figure out where you're at. If you're not breathing properly, be conscious of your breathing. Don't just assume that you're breathing right or correctly. Be conscious of what's going on, how the air is going in. If you feel like every once in a while you have to open your mouth to take in air, then maybe there's something going on there. And just be a bit more conscious and get help if you need to get help, and maybe move away from the over the shelf counter medication. Not necessarily helpful because it's not really getting to the root cause, it's just masking the symptoms. You might get some sleep, but it's not good enough. And again, it comes down to your breathing, like we're learning today, the breath and the tongue, two things I've never cared about. Like, how's your breathing? Oh, yeah, no one talks about it. But I think just listening to you today, it just shows how crucial and how important this is for us, not just for your breathing but for for your overall wellness and well-being. And I think a lot of people are not able to link this to productivity, and you wrote a book about it. So maybe tell us a little bit about your book and how it can help everyone, because when you see execute goals, you're like, it's going to help me make money. So what's your book about
Yes.
and who does it help?
So my book is about how you can really amplify the power of breathing to improve your sleep, because every day really is dependent upon how you slept the night before. When you wake up, if you had a good night of sleep, you're most likely going to have a really good, productive day. Your brain would have been restored. You would have been able to really gather a lot of data. So we get our memory input when we're sleeping. We're really able to do a lot of active processing. Some therapeutic things actually happen for us when we're sleeping and we're getting restorative sleep. So we're able to process events or process emotions while we're sleeping. Some of that falls into our dreams and our dreaming. But you're going to be able to have all of that kind of done. All of that is done for you. You don't have to wake up the next day in a flurry of emotion, feeling really down and unable to really concentrate. You can amplify how you are each day by just making sure you have the really best night prior that you possibly can. So in my book, Accomplished, what I talk about is my 4-step process. It's the care plan, CARE, that anybody can do, super easy, to really just make sure that you are taking the active steps to get your best night's sleep possible, to really wind down into stage 1 and stage 2 sleep, to make sure that you're able to spend the whole night in that restorative sleep, and to wake up and be as efficient as possible so that you can be as effective at executing all of those goals and making all of your dreams happen.
Yes, absolutely. And it's just 4 steps. 4 steps is easier than 12-step programs. It's just 4 steps, and you can have a better life, be more productive, and really go after your goals. And I know that everyone agrees. We all know when we haven't had a good night. You know your butt. Well, if you don't know, your body and your brain's gonna tell you. The next day is just crap. You're in a mood, your emotions are all over the place. You're probably gonna eat more because now you're not well rested. So you need some energy from somewhere to just get through the day. It's like 10 cups of coffee kind of day. But all you need to do is just get good sleep, get enough restorative sleep so that everything that needs to happen throughout the night actually happens. So another question is, I hear people say things like, I'm going to catch up on my sleep over the weekend. Is it is that even possible? Like a lot of people are like, no, I just sleep 2 hours Monday to Friday. Weekends I just do 10 hours both days and I'll be good. Just that work.
No, no, we can't catch up on sleep. I know. I wish we could. I really, really wish we could, but you can't. Sometimes you just miss out on a lot of what I was talking about earlier, the memory input.
Yeah.
All of that deposits of short-term memory happens at night. So everything that your brain has processed during the day, if you studied for a test, if you were studying notes for a presentation, if you were doing anything, you had magical moments and memories. Those things, they don't get input into the brain system that night. They're not going to input 2 nights later, or like, if it's a Monday night, you won't get it input on Sunday night when you finally get some actual sleep. So you can't catch up on sleep because a lot of those tasks that we really need sleep for, if we don't have them happen, it's lowering your immune system. It's going to lower a lot of your cognitive abilities. You won't be able to actually catch up on all of that. You're at a deficit. You're starting already at a deficit. So you never really catch up. You can make it better. You can take tiny steps every day to make it better, but you're definitely not going to catch up. So it's really important to be consistent. And I know we talk a lot about consistency when we're talking to new parents or when we're talking about children. We're like, children need routine, children need consistency. So do we. We matter too. We're adults and we
Yeah.
need that same thing too. And so if we're going to regulate our circadian rhythm, if we're going to put our body into a nice routine for sleep, we have to make it a routine. We have to establish it as a daily habit and have a process around it and try to maintain that consistency as often as possible. That way you can get good sleep and you won't ever have to actually catch up on that thing you can't catch up on.
Oh my God. So bad news, people. Sorry, you can't catch up on sleep. And I know someone is whispering there, but what if I take a nap during the day? Does that count?
Naps are good. Here's the thing with naps. Naps are great. They're wonderful. They're restorative, but they have to be short. So if you're going to take a nap, make it a cat nap. Make it 20 minutes or less, and preferably before like early afternoon. So you want to have it like before 3 p.m. That's the best way to get a nap. Okay. 20 minutes, no more than that. And before 3 p.m. Because that circadian rhythm, like you don't want to throw your body off. You have a sort of sleep cycle, and that sleep cycle that's really like depositing your brain, it's stimulating it, saying, hey, you need to start producing melatonin. Like it's time for us to get ready to sleep. Once you take a nap, you're taking away from that little counter. It's like, oh, okay, maybe we can go a little bit longer. No, we don't want our brain to think that. Short cat nap, and then you get down into your actual routine at night. But a nap is great. I mean, there are whole societies that thrive off of like a midday siesta.
Oh
We
yeah.
need to adapt that.
I know I need a nap. I think the older I get, the more I need a nap midday just to get through my day. And maybe I'm not sleeping well at night, who knows? But I
Naps are wasted on children.
know,
Absolutely
it's like
wasted on
yeah,
They don't even
when you're a
appreciate
kid,
it.
like go sleep, take a nap. And then when you're an adult, you're like, you take naps? What's wrong with you? You should be working, you sleep when you're dead. You sleep when you're dead. Oh my God. So amazing. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing so much about sleep. And I'm hoping that people are starting to really think about sleep differently and think about breathing differently. Because if you think about how we are with little kids, you're constantly monitoring how they're breathing. If a baby's not breathing right, you catch it, you're like, she's not breathing right. What's going on there? But then as adults, we don't even think about our breathing. We don't even care. We just go through life every day and it's just the same day in, day out. Whatever's happening, we're not aware. So thank you so much for really opening our eyes to the breathing and to sleeping and some quick exercises that we can do to get our body functioning the right way as it should so that we can be more productive. Wow.
Yes.
So
No,
what's next for you?
what's next for me? I'm just every day waking up and trying to figure out how to take over the world one day at a time.
When you
What's
find
next for me is really sharing
out.
the message. Yeah, sharing the message as much and as often as possible. I love you, your platform, and anywhere that I can really talk about it because it's really a passion of mine, and I want as many of people as possible to end this epidemic. Okay, we were focused for so long on the pandemic. Now it's time to focus on the global epidemic of sleep deprivation. Let's get over that hump. So what's next for me is to continue to fight the good fight and to spread the good word.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'm sure a lot of people have really benefited from today's show. And I encourage everyone, don't just listen and do it for yourself. Like keep sharing the message because I didn't know a lot about this stuff and I consider myself quite aware. I had no clue about my breathing, but share the message with your family, with your friends so that we can end this epidemic together. I'm sure that this really impacts a lot of lives, stress related illnesses, so many, well, you mentioned all the illnesses that come with not sleeping properly, but it can help you to have a better life, not just for yourself, but for your family, for your loved ones. So spread the message as much as you can, and let's get the world sleeping better so that we can all be more productive and we can take over the world.
Yes.
So any final words for our listeners today?
I think the best, most useful advice I can give is to advocate for yourself. I think a lot of us, while we don't think about our breathing, while we don't think about our sleep, I think we know internally that something's wrong. And it's important to advocate for yourself, to get some help. Don't just, accept that it is what it is and that there's nothing you can do to change it. There's always a way.
Wow, that is so true. Like I'm thinking maybe this is my asthma thing. I've had it for too long. Maybe there is a way to improve my breathing so I don't have to depend on an inhaler when I have my episodes. Well, thank you so much for being here with us, Kareses. Thank you to all my listeners. I'm sure you're going to be breathing better, sleeping better, and be more productive so that you can go ahead and execute those goals that I know that you seriously want. Thank you so much for being here with us. Thank you everyone for listening. I will see you same time next week on iRise Conversations with Joan.